Here we go again. The day is Tuesday. The time is 1 past 11 in the PM. I have had a productive day, though not in the ways I should currently have my priorities. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it. I reorganised my kitchen and cleaned up and tidied up my place a bit, and tomorrow I'm probably going to continue. It's not good in the way that it is not working on my thesis. It's working in executive dysfunction. But yeah, I'll manage. More on that in a moment. Today's drink is Summersby's apple cider from Poland. I believe it's one of the first times I'm doing alcoholic on here. Consume responsibly with alcohol, This is my first alcoholic beverage in, 3 or 4 days? Bloody hell. 3 days, yeah. I've made space for a grow box in my kitchen. I've cleaned up, so I now have a proper system for everything again. It's just I had a system in the first place, but you know how it is. You get new things and more new things, and in the end of the day, your system ended up not being much of a system at all anymore because it had outgrown itself. So I've now been readjusted, mine that is. I've yet to find a good place for putting my regular crates of drinks I've started to get, but I think I have a place I can do that. And I've accommodated enough space to put my grass plants in a grow box. Grow box is kind of a stretch. Ninth cigarette of the day, by the way. Grow box is a stretch. Why? Because it's my IKEA kitchen table with a load of cling film with some tin foil in between, wrapped around the legs, and a tarp over the bottom, and that all more or less airtight to the point where I'm not worried about it, because my plants have started to get to the point where they're a bit smelly. Luckily, the under tray I bought quite a while ago is precisely the width of my table legs, so that's poetry in motion, I'm gonna get those out of my bathroom, and yeah. Other good news, I did have a shower today. Haha. And I believe it was yesterday, maybe the day before. Probably the day before, I'm not sure. I did manage to fold my laundry. I might have mentioned that before if it was the day before, but still, I'm still quite happy about that. So, yay. Shower's also a solid one. My smoking have stayed reduced, even on days on which I only do 1 or 2 hemp blunts. There was a couple of days which it was rather high, like in the mid-teens, in the mid-tens. I guess that's the way it is. I haven't even smoked a hemp blunt in the last 24 hours or so. Oh wow. One other thing I'd like to talk about is how I got back here to my place where I'm at now yesterday, because I went into town with an Uber and the experience was acceptable enough. 7 out of 8. Could not far from great was my way in. The way out was on the surface level alright, but it really affected me a lot negatively, mentally, and drained my energy completely. Because the fella was same kind of car again, Toyota Corolla. Because I suppose they do good fuel mileage and they're low maintenance and they're plug-in hybrids and but the fella out of town was speeding with 85 in a 50 according to GPS. So on a speedometer it would have been, I didn't look at it, but it would have been approximately 40 over, which percentage wise is only 180%. I say only because, in 30s the previous one had been quicker than that, but still. But that really put a strain on me, like it was like he was playing a video game. I didn't feel unsafe, it just felt wrong, which in the past I've decided I'd call painful for the sake of communication. So it was rather painful, to the point where once I got home I just went to bed and was gone. which then once again have screwed over my circadian rhythm. Surprise! Yeah, so that's a bit of a bummer. I've been suffering from insomnia. Then again, that's what you get when you go to bed at 2 p.m. and have a night's sleep and then wake up again. I think it's very likely I'll also stay up too late again today, into tomorrow, that is. Just because I'm going to have a hard time winding down, just because I haven't been up that long. I mean, I woke at 11, got up at 12. You know, it's kind of, ugh. I've only been on my legs for 11 hours. I've only been awake for 12. It's kind of a bummer, but that's the price, I guess. And that's the problem with working for myself, in the sense of writing my own thesis, which is why I do intend on going by my former place of internship latest the day after tomorrow, maybe even tomorrow. Main thing I need for that is the car battery, which is on its way. It is coming with DPD. I know the driver, or from seeing at least in passing. So I'm just going to meet them at the door, and they don't have to lug the lead acid battery of 80 amp hours, 12 volts up the steps, because that's going to be a heavy fucker, you know. Which I guess means I'll once again not be too productive in ways of my thesis tomorrow. And I will also have to go grocery shopping in the evening. So I'm completely out of the cola I bought a crate off. Admittedly, a crate was only 12 bottles, but still. I'm on my last milk in the fridge, which is going to be my goodnight milk once I decide to go to sleep tomorrow morning. And then I'll be completely out of milk. I still got bread and stuff on bread, but that's just because I haven't been eating enough. Oddly enough, my cigarette indicator of my smoking behaviour is actually at a point where I believe it reflects a very good mental state of mind. So is my shower indicator. I've had my second shower in 3 days. I'm really quite happy about that. Then again, I am worried about functioning very well for everything but the thing I need to. I have, day before yesterday. No, yesterday that was. I managed to write quarter to third of a page for my thesis. But I did also take a few pages of notes for penmanship, you know. And I'm actually looking quite forward to that, because it's a load of new ideas I've opened up. The latest is, what is the point even of video art? Which I reckon I'll spend a few pages on writing up, so that's a good way of getting together pages, you know. My supervisor is taking a bit more of a hands-off approach. They did ask me whether I've already had my admission confirmed, which I have not. Then again, with the deadline being 7 weeks from now, 6.5 really, I can't afford to assume the admission to wait for the confirmation of the admission. I may have to hassle the uni people for that later this week, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps the day after. But I'll have to hassle them, because I don't want to be writing a thesis for them to not like the subject, or have a supervisor for me and not want my external one. You never know. Sadly, with this uni, I will not be surprised if they accept my application for admission on the day after the deadline the thesis is due. Which is not good, I guess. The tutor who didn't show yesterday have in the meantime emailed me with a grade of 1.2 and that I've passed. I'm happy with 1.2, but only because I've really invested no effort, and I don't really care for the grades. The main thing I care for is having passed or not, which I have. Surprise. I mean, I fulfilled the requirements, so I don't know how I could have not passed, but still, you know, 1.2 isn't far from cum laude. And I did not write them a report, even though they asked for one. I just answered their questions via email because, nah, I ain't writing a report while I'm writing my thesis. I'm writing my thesis and that's it, man. And I guess emails and text messages. I am still going to have to chase up and follow up on my Office for Student Loan / Grants, BAföG-Amt, because they still, in my book at least, owe me almost £1,000, which is the money I'll need later in the year to get the car through general inspection, which will be brakes, all rotors / discs and shoes. That'll be rather expensive, and I'll probably also need an oil change by then. So, you know, that's going to be hella money, and that's what I'll need the approximately £1,000 they owe me for. And admittedly, it's not because I am affording a car where I shouldn't be, though I am. That is the very reason I am not spending much on hobbies whatsoever. It's the compromise I'm making, and I mean, it is money for travelling expenses they owe me. Well, that they took from me, even though they shouldn't have. They should have just kept it going, and I wouldn't have had a complaint. But the way it is now, I got approximately minus $50 for being paid for my internship, just with the amount of money they gave me less for being compensated for my internship, and them not considering that I had to commute there, which I still believe is bloody obvious, considering they have my rental contract, which states where I live, and they had my internship contract, which stated where I worked, and that I was to show 5 days a week at 9 in the AM, and that there was no accommodation provided. I mean, it's probably just wasted energy at this point in time, and I should just find another way to cough up £1,000, but I just gotta chase it up with them. In other news, I have the first of loose plans for one of the multi-annual migrations. Currently, I've set the earliest date for such a thing at late next week. I reckon it'll be the week after next, before I got my shit sorted here enough to be able to leave this town. And I have very much so been considering, from my former place of internship, getting a couple of things just so I can set up and do my writing wherever. Apologies for the background noise. I have the door open because I did not want to wind the windows with the battery as low as it is. Though it has 12 volts, it has no amp hours. So I'm actually sitting here with, try to not dox myself, the door open. There we go. That wasn't doxing myself. Session 131, 132 and 133 went, for my standards, viral. Oddly enough, I don't really care because, yes, the views metric goes up on YouTube and you have a nice spiky graph. But most of those views are not people who care to watch this. It is you who are still here. Thank you very much for watching. And at the end of the day, even if the graph is oh so high, if people only watch the first half minute and then go off into the great depths of the interwebs, I don't get nothing from it, because what I get something from is knowing people could have heard what I said. And yeah, more people could have heard the first half minute of those, but that's not where the value is, you know. The value for me is in the entire thing. So thank you very much for watching. There we go, that's some thumbnails. I'm really rather happy with the state of my kitchen. I believe I may even have a spot for my toolbox, which for the longest time I've lived in front of my stovetop. Tool cart, really. I may be able to put that next to where the grow box shall be, which I'll be very happy with, just because it free up a lot of space in the kitchen and it make an opener space. particularly considering I've put a right angle shelf right smack dab in the middle now, instead of in the corner where it was before. I have been running the air conditioner, just because it was getting hella warm in the flat, and that's going to cost me a couple of bucks just for the today. But realistically, I'm paying most of those couple of bucks on a monthly basis, because I haven't been using the pooter much in the past few days and so on. It ends up averaging out over the year, so I don't feel guilty for using it. I am still very happy I acquired it during winter. My first winter here, so that would have been 21-22. Oddly enough, my power consumption for hair dryers is significantly higher than my air conditioning power consumption. Oh no, first world problems, you know. First world problems are... I've been thinking, and there's probably mostly the executive dysfunction of having to write a thesis of 40 pages, plus bibliography, plus contexts, plus cover sheet, plus table of contents, you know. But I really kind of want to clear up my flat a bit better, just because currently I have only about 1.5 shelves of 10 shelving units that are adequately labelled and sorted. And I mean, I have the labeler, and I have the potential of sorting things, and aircraft overhead. But, you know, odds are I won't get around to that before the multi-annual migration. Fancy term. The cider is actually rather pleasant. It's very sweet. Almost a bit too sweet, to be fair. It almost tastes like a soda pop or Coke, as the Americans would call it, or a fizzy drink, as someone else might call it. I think I actually like this is not going to be relatable for many people, but I like the gold-coloured cans of Bembel from the German land of Hesse better, which strictly speaking is Appleweiss, so strictly speaking does not have any artificial carbon dioxide in it. But for all practical purposes, it might as well taste just like a proper cider would, you know. 10th cigarette of the day, and possibly the last. Because the day's only got 40 minutes, 41 minutes. While doing my housework today, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts again, been catching up on my backlog. It's quite pleasant being able to say, ooh, yet another backlog finished again, because at one point in time I was caught up with all of them. When I stopped doing public transport, I stopped listening to a lot of podcasts, so since then I've been building backlogs again and again. Then again, I do also listen at an accelerated speed, so I can actually listen to more podcasts in any amount of time than can be recorded in the same amount of time, which is wow, you know. I guess you can do that with these. I wouldn't know. If you are doing that with these, let me know. If you aren't, let me know as well. There's comments for that. Thank you very much, and also thank you very much for sticking around. With my thesis, I've actually gone to the point of, I believe James Bond intros and series intros are close enough to video art that for the sake of my thesis I'll be able to interpret them as such. Which means I'll most certainly take the title sequences of several of the Daniel Craig James Bond films and completely analyse them. That's going to give me double-digit page count. Just because they're basically fish in a barrel. And they usually feature both fluid dynamics, elastic collision, and so on. Elastic collision, brittle failure, it's all physics motifs. Admittedly, their main motif usually is gambling and guns, but we can look over that, you know. Another aspect I can feature on, because it is a phenomenon of optics, is symmetry, which have made me think I'll probably do the Amazon series of Bosch featuring Titus Velvier. Hopefully I haven't butchered that name, because that's very symmetrical intros, and it is playing with light and playing with optics. And one could argue those are also phenomena of mirages, which is a different refractive index of warmer air as to colder air, causing reflection by bending light, which is optics. So, and it's not a physics paper, so the optics is secondary as a bachelor's thesis, but not for a bachelor's of science of physics, Today my adapter did arrive in the mail. I have yet to check how well it works, or if at all it should work. I don't see a reason it should not. But that'll allow me to plug in both at the same time external power and a keyboard to the iPad or this phone, which will allow me a much more pleasant typing experience for typing up my thesis, because I'll be able to use a proper keyboard, not a flimsy butterfly mechanism, which is what I've been using with the iPad thus far. In the past, I've just found with a proper keyboard, the characters just fly out of my fingers, whereas with a butterfly mechanism, they take time, and then sometimes you have unreliable keystrokes, because butterfly mechanism, hell, you need a little piece of junk in there and it's going to not register the key, and you have to go back and type the whole thing again, So I might very well, for my multi-annual migration, take my proper keyboard, or what I deem more likely, proper keyboard have Kailh Sherbet switches, which are clicky. I like clicky switches the best, but my backup have Cherry MX Blues, which is also okay. It's good enough to be satisfying enough for serving the purpose of an on-the-road keyboard. And it is currently mostly retired. It is something I would sell if I would were to invest the energy to sell things, but it's not worth it without investing the energy. And I don't got the energy for that kind of thing. I mean, I'd probably be able to get $120 or so out of it, but for now I just got that as a backup keyboard, and soon enough it'll be my on-the-road keyboard. And that's a bit odd, because there's 100% layout, which is a bit clunky comparing a 10.5-inch iPad Air 2020, but still, I might even use it with this phone, in which case it's going to be significantly more volume, but I've already got the phone with me, so all I need to carry is a keyboard, And if I'm carrying the keyboard, I might as well carry a power adapter, because I don't think the power out of the Lightning can power enough to power keyboards. So pass through, and then I'll be able to use a keyboard and not lose charge at the same time, though the device might not charge, neither the phone nor the iPad. I don't know. I have yet to find out. Then again, there is breaks in typing for jotting out notes and finding citations and so on, which should be enough that the device could be fully charged at any point in time. With my former place of internship, I reckon I'll ask tomorrow. Probably they'll ask me to send an email, because I want to borrow a few things for not a short period of time. Then again, I know what things are used commonly in what amounts, and what amounts of other things they do have, so I know what I can comfortably ask to borrow without much opportunity cost or any opportunity cost. And odds are I may get them free of charge. One thing is a Praktikabel, which is a piece of the grip department, really. It's not lighting department, but it's close enough. Which is just these fold-up alley legs, 1 by 1 meter, 1 meter tall, that you can pop a plate on of plywood, the flight case plywood, and have a solid table of 1 meter height, which I reckon I'll do a lot of my typing with, just because it's way more pleasant than being hunched over, and it'll give me the chance to pace which I believe I'll want to do, because all that energy you've got to go somewhere. And it helped to think. I mean, I noticed today while I was doing the kitchen, I did a lot of pacing. I mean, hell, I'll be able to tell you because I didn't do any other moving. I've done approximately 5k of pacing in the kitchen today, which is rather ridiculous, you know, but if that's the way it is. The main reason I came down is because I ran out of cigarettes in the flat and I had to get some from the car, so here I am. And admittedly, while I'm down here, I might as well smoke down here and talk with myself, you know, have a good time. We've reached a point in the day, though, where for the past hour and a half now, since 10 p.m, I haven't in good faith been able to vacuum, just because thin walls and don't want to disturb the neighbours, you know. So I'll have to continue tomorrow. Good news is I'll have plenty of reason to continue tomorrow, because I'll have to be waiting for DPD to ring the doorbell and be downstairs myself at a moment's notice. So they don't have to cart the battery up, because otherwise they'll try. But I'd rather not have them do it, because I like the guy and I believe the guy like me. So, you know, why make their life harder and my own life harder at the same time? If I can just be downstairs at a moment's notice, you know, with my Birkenstocks, which are the shoes I'm wearing now because I'm only down for the car, I can just slip in these and be downstairs. And that'll save a lot of parties a lot of grief. In this case, 2 parties carrying a lead acid battery up 3 flights of steps. Oh no, I've gotten closer to doxing myself once again. Who knows, I'll have an elevator. You have to do minimum 2 flights of steps. And now I continue doxing myself. Anyways, I think that sounded like a good plan for tomorrow. I hope you too have a good plan for tomorrow. Stay safe. I'll see you around. Cheerio.